what's interesting about that piece of property? Doesn't even say the city of Coos Bay on it. Thank you. Okay, we are looking at it. I'm sorry, I turned it over to planning.
I think that was part of it.
I think it was something with, east side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Coos Bay Parks Commission meeting for a work session. We will start out with roll call. We'll start out with online.
Patty Scott, Commissioner.
Down at the end. Okay, perfect.
Bill Davis.
Carmen Matthews.
Ariane Lyons.
Kurt Benward.
Jennifer Wersing.
Greg Hamblett.
Christina Teixeira. And Amy Edmonds, City of Coos Bay.
Thank you so much. Do we have public comment?
Did you have a public comment, Bridget? Only if you have specifics. So that's why I didn't,
Okay,
when you get to some specifics potentially.
okay.
Within the agenda
Within
item?
the agenda.
On the
So-
water, and the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And also, who's also not on there, Eli Ashton is planning on joining when he finishes his other meeting. He's
Okay.
15 minutes in, but neither of us are on there.
okay, perfect. We'll do that. So public comment, we do have Dean Lundy. Dean, if you want to come up.
Hi, guys. I'm here to promote a bike paths and stuff, and I wanted to kind of, I don't want to use the word shame you guys, but I have a, this is, now the reason I said that is because North Bend years ago actually did the Connect the Boardwalk plan. You may have that.
I've seen it, but yeah,
I'd like to see it.
yeah.
Anyway, so they did the plan. It hasn't been done, but they actually did it. They drew it out, and all to scale. It's the proposed plan, and it's all to scale. Because I tried to get plot maps from every piece from Freddie Myers all the way to Newmark, and they're at the county,
Yeah.
and they're all different sizes, different scales. But they did it. And so they did that. But not only that, oh, Jesus. Listen to this. All right, just give me the hook here. But this is another thing. I found from the contractor in Reedsport. Reedsport got a stoplight. They were having kids hit going from 7-Eleven to the school. And so Reedsport leaned on ODOT. And like I've been leaning on them down here, they say, well, we'll draw it. It's the reconfiguration of 101, which, you know, my buddy Mike Powder and I have been pounding 101 because there's no crosswalk for a mile. There's a huge turn lane that doesn't go anywhere, so there's plenty of room there.
Yeah.
They did clean up the sidewalk after I leaned on them, but I got the plan, the entire 7-page plan from ODOT on Reedsport. Now, Reedsport's hip. It's got actual reflectors, because when your eyes are real old like me and stuff early in the morning and in the rain and at night, man, the reflectors help. So this, we need a state-of-the-art thing, and it's their responsibility. It's not ours. We don't have to pay for it. And there's 37 million on safe routes to schools right now. So now's the time to lean on them, because we've been writing them legal letters, you know, return receipt stuff. But this is the entire thing from Brown Engineering, and they've got the paint. You know, it's just paint and signs. It's not bulldozing the streets. But the thing that made sense to me, being a Mission High dropout, I don't even have it here. But the thing that made it for me was the legend. See, it doesn't make any sense until you look at the legend, and it tells you W1, renew 8-inch stripe, all like that. And we're looking at expanding the urban growth boundary, right? I know we turned down having a theme for Empire, but I have a theme, right? Okay, that's the, you know.
Bay received a Safe Routes to School grant. It's a planning grant, and it's for 3 schools. It's for Sunset Middle School, Destinations, and Marshfield. We've been working with the planner, Alta Planning, for about 6 months now. And I say we, city staff and the project management team. The project management team is comprised of 3 city staff and then 12 citizens at large, Downtown Association, the Empire Coalition is represented. ODOT actually has representation on it as well. So we've received a draft product of their efforts. There's 3 reports. There's 2 infrastructure reports, one for Sunset and then another one from Marshfield. And the Marshfield report also includes destinations. And then there's a non-infrastructure report. What Alta has tasked this body to do, the project management team, and in conjunction with the Parks Commission, is to look at the infrastructure reports and select the top 2. So for a total of 4 projects, 2 from each report. And they'll take those top 2 priorities from each report and they will develop them into levels of effort and cost estimates. And then once we have that, those we can take and we can apply for construction grants. Right now we're being told that the ODOT typically issues out construction grants between the $2 and $3 million mark. So if you don't have any questions, I think staff can assist, and we can even pull up maps. We have maps for each one if you'd like, if you think that would be helpful. Okay. Then Amy, would you mind pulling up, should we talk about Sunset first? Okay, we'll talk about Sunset first. Amy, there's an exhibit in the staff report. If you can share your screen and pull that up.
So can I ask a question while she's still pulling that up? You mentioned that Alta is looking for 2 priorities for each report, but the report they're generating is going to have a lot of other suggestions for possible improvements. Those are still valuable suggestions. They may not, I'm just trying to discriminate between this top 4 and all the other potential improvements that might be on this list. I guess I don't want to lose sight of, I don't want to get overly focused on those 2 and to the neglect of others that, you know, may also be valuable projects.
So that's an excellent point. I'm just wanting to stay focused on the fact that we want to go for that construction grant. So all Alta is contracted to do through ODOT, through this grant, is just develop 2 projects from each report. Doesn't mean that we can't keep these others on a shelf and pull them out later. So it's a very valid point.
Or there may be other developments in the area that spur the action on those other items. But with this process, just making sure that we get a chunk of that money.
Got it, that's good. I just want to make sure we're aware, everybody on the group is aware that these other projects that don't make that top 4 list, they may be valuable projects, and there may be other sources of funding and other reasons to pursue them beyond those 4, so.
Yeah.
Eric, when I took a look at this report before I came, I mean, I had the same, a lot of the ones that are in here, particularly out in the Sunset one, are like crosswalks and ADA ramps and things like that, and signage, you know, school signage and that sort of stuff. Some of those projects, you know, those things I think are probably less expensive and able to do on something other than a construction grant. So when I looked at this, I started looking at things, well, what looks like it's gonna cost a lot of money that we would want to go for a construction grant for, and focus in on a couple of those in each one of these places, and then hopefully find some way to fund the things you're talking about, because there are a lot of really good suggestions in there, and you can walk just about anywhere in the city of Coos Bay and find crosswalks that have either not painted or were painted a while ago and got partially paved over because of a water pipe project or a sewer project, and so anyway, so that's how I looked at it, but I agree, a lot of good suggestions.
So top 4. Are we just jumping in, whoever's got comments?
So I don't want to tell this body how to do this, but I would just start at line 1 and just have an open discussion about every single row. Now, there's 25 rows, but otherwise, if we've done our homework and there's some projects associated with Sunset that you guys are really excited about, speak up. And I don't know, you know, we actually have Shelley on board. She may have some projects, and she has some institutional knowledge too, since she works there. Not to put Shelley on the spot.
Right.
No, I appreciate you asking. I had given some feedback when we got the report, made some comments. The thing that would be the most beneficial to Sunset and would be, you know, expensive to do would be to create an opportunity, or create a bus lane between Sunset and Madison. I can't remember which number that was in the report and where that's recommended, but to create that opportunity for bus drop-off. If you look at like number 20 on the map that you're showing, that would create a bus drop-off and pickup route that would serve Sunset and Madison, which would then in turn allow us to use our current bus drop-off area, which is in front of the building and off of the street, as a parent drop-off and pickup, which is also in the report as a, you know, a needed fix. And so we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but it's going to be a very expensive project, I would imagine.
I think is that number 1?
Yep. Number 1 on the map shows the connection of Fillmore all the way through, you know, through the school district property in between Sunset and Madison, and I thought the exact same. I think that's a big one for infrastructure and development that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads of that's a really key one. It looks incredibly expensive, and looks like it's something that would be beneficial. It's something that historically they've talked about for a very, very long time. So it would be nice to see some movement forward with that.
Yeah.
And can I just add that it would benefit all of the kids in Empire. It would benefit, you know, all of Madison students and Sunset students. And so I just feel like you're getting a lot of bang for your buck.
Agreed.
Yeah, it is number one. Yeah. One other thing I just wanted to ask Jennifer and Greg about was that when I looked at this, you know, recently the city council in a work session also looked at the Empire Blueprint. And I just wanted to make sure that I was going to ask whether or not the group that's working on the Safe Route to Schools also looked at what was going on with the Empire Blueprint so that those two things kind of work together.
They did have access to it, but the Empire Blueprint footprint is outside of the
They're
Alta's-
proposing a bike
Yeah.
lane down Michigan right by Sunset.
Yes, but that's actually further down,
Okay?
right?
No.
Oh, no?
It runs right
Okay.
by it. It runs right by where they're talking about all those people going. There's Michigan and Cammon. Yeah, and so they actually propose it.
Kurt, that's
going-
an excellent point. We'll bring it up to Alta. That's an excellent point. Sorry about that.
They have a lot of other paving and pedestrian things, and as well as intersections and improvements across Newmark. And so I'm just saying, us looking at these things are great, and I think we can make some recommendations. I just hope somewhere down the line someone
Mary's.
marries the two of those together,
Yeah.
and there aren't any duplications.
And so, there's been several different levels of reports that they've submitted, and they had like an existing condition support, a report where they took all of our draft documents, or I say draft, they took all of our documents. I think the disconnect was, at the time we had the Empire Blueprint, it was draft.
Yeah.
And that's excellent. Thank you, Kurt.
So,
Yeah,
things
that's
like,
a little stick figure, and it shows them with the bike lanes right going from.
Excellent catch.
Okay.
things like curb improvements and striping and stuff, can that be done with urban renewal money? Yeah, okay, that's great.
Yes.
Well, might as well just take all of that out of the proposed top four, in my opinion, and focus on the major infrastructure, basically south of Michigan. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Because especially with the dovetail of the plans that are discussed, is I see a lot of the elements that are along Michigan Avenue can be incorporated with the other plans. And so I think, think number one, and then let's refresh.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, if someone from our representative from Sunset School says, gee, we really would like number one because of the problems with that. And I've been out there and I've seen when the buses pull in and out and people wait on Michigan and everything gets jammed up. If that's one of their priorities, then I think that's probably should be one of our priorities as well.
I'd say put that one at the top. Get the buses out
Yeah.
of the actual lanes of traffic
Yeah.
and allow traffic lanes to be freed up for parents. I love that. I mean, if we're just looking at recommendations that actually involve infrastructure, not just signage or curbs, for me, it would be like sidewalks and maybe that push through number 21 that connects Flanagan from Nice Street. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but like,
No, let's dive.
No, that's a cool one, but that's the one that goes on the city's right-of-way, right?
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. It connects a whole part of that area of Empire that doesn't have direct access to it. So I saw it too, but I don't know the difficulty of doing that. And there was some question about whether that would be something the city could do, so.
Well, if it's in the right-of-way, I don't see why they couldn't. It would just be about developing it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a proposed project in that approximate vicinity?
I believe the Salvation Army is updating their complex.
Oh,
So my understanding is, and it was in a public meeting, is they're looking at updating their complex, which would benefit also from 21, and that would also be some housing issues.
Great point.
So I think with 21 going through and connecting, it has a lot of opportunities there to benefit not only this project, but potentially the housing project for Salvation Army and some others. So I think that, and it also looks incredibly expensive.
Well-
Anytime a yellow line goes through land that has a tree on it, it's,
Well, I mean, you can see, like, visibly, there is a lane already there. It's just an unimproved right-of-way. It's just that little section right there, but knowing that it's already platted as a right-of-way means that it'd be nice living in Empire and walking to Madison and Sunset as a kid, going along Shoneman Street. I lived on Shoneman Street, so like all of these recommendations for sidewalks are just very familiar to me. They've been unimproved for decades, and seeing some improvement. I also love the one on Madison Street from Pacific Avenue all the way to Blanco, how there's no sidewalks, they just drop off right there. It seems like that would be, that's a main thoroughfare. And then you have all these feeder lines, Pacific, Arago, and Webster, and Blanco, where, I mean, it'd be nice. I guess Pacific is the only one that we needed the east-west connection on sidewalks, but
yeah,
that little zone right there, that T of Pacific Avenue and Madison Street going south, those sidewalks, I think, would be a huge improvement for that entire neighborhood.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it would be nice to eventually get to where we're at a comprehensive sidewalk plan for the whole city. That is one of the number one complaints I have when clients come from other areas, is they don't feel that it's safe to walk because honestly, the vast majority of our community doesn't have sidewalks. So, or a good chunk of the residential areas for a variety of reasons. Continuing to look at the Sunset area, are there any other component pieces that look high dollar, that are jumping out to anybody else sitting up here? Jamie?
Number one, at the corner of Cammon and Michigan, that is a fairly low and wide area between the street and the building. There could be a cut-in. Did you discuss that at all? Okay, I put it on my notes, which are going to arrive here in a bit with my wife, but I forgot. Sorry about being tardy.
Say that again? Cammon and?
So just at the corner of Cammon and Michigan, if you come just east of where that one is and just start cutting into that curb, the actual one lane cut into the property, you could still have a full width right-of-way street and have these things off-street. Does that make sense? In other words,
So eliminate the parking lane?
I guess so. It would be one of these.
This way.
Is that I don't know if that's a goofy idea or not.
Are you talking about the bus loading and unloading?
Cutting into that,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's what Alta would develop. We could certainly provide that as a suggestion.
It starts to slope upward this way. That's why they were talking about having a railing up here.
Are these your notes?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I took them, they were sitting there before you got here.
Somebody, did you do that?
I did that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I intended to have them with me. It's just-
You can call Mrs. Faraday.
Wrong way, Faraday. Yes. That was my only suggestion for number one. About 80 to 90 feet.
So you're saying, Jimmy, you're saying incorporate it with their number one suggestion?
As an alternate.
Okay, because, what the representative from Sunset was saying was they were interested in, because this is number one as well.
Right.
As in, one thing was to designate something up here. The other option was to make this whole big bus loop so it could be shared with Madison. Right? So in response, the existing bus loop could be located internally on school grounds, creating a shared bus loop with Madison. The bus loop could have sidewalks to help students walk to school from Fillmore Street. as opposed to, I guess, install this permanent striping for the drop-off lanes. I don't know.
And that would perhaps be less costly? Don't know. As far as getting across school property, it's just putting in the proper sidewalks to connect it to the rest of the community.
The other thing, the Empire Blueprint Plan has bike lanes going down both sides of the street in front of the school on Michigan. So with your cutout, it would just have to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
So I'll return back to the question. We've got a lot of great projects in the Sunset School area. I think a lot of them are safety. I'm looking forward to that plan and what can be taken on Michigan Street. And we're looking at, our recommendation is number 1, and we're hearing a lot about a recommendation for 21. Is there another project in this area that we feel is high dollar amount that we would like to include on the list of 2 that we get?
So we get 2 from each space?
Two from each.
Yeah, we only
list.
get 2 though, right? So
Yeah.
if we do 1 and 21, that kind of eliminates. any
Exactly.
others.
So my
But-
question is, do you want to bump either of those out?
Well, I was just going to say, it seems like the other 2 big ones are 22, which is all the paving up on Maryland and Michigan and Shoneman, or down below, there's 15 and 16, which is a lot of paving on Madison and Pacific.
Yeah.
Those are, and I guess because there's no sidewalks there.
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed at how much sidewalks cost, but they cost a lot. So those are 2 other expensive projects. I guess which one is the best way to go, so.
Can I
My-
ask a question?
Yep.
Yes, Shelley?
When you refer to 21, are you referring to the 20 and the 1 that is the suggested new bus pickup and drop-off zone between Sunset and Madison?
No, we're referring to 21, which is the extension of Flanagan over to Nice Street.
Okay.
My thoughts, now that I hear that, are that the unimproved right-of-way that would connect Flanagan to Nice Street, since it's partially already there, and we're looking at not at vehicular travel right there, it might be better to just improve that in a walking path, maybe a slight bike path, and that might be a lower dollar, easy picking for the city to develop with appropriate direction from city council, that would maybe not come close to the dollar amount of 15 and 16, just with curbs and sidewalks being so expensive. I'm wondering if we could do a walking path, which would be gravel, compacted gravel maybe?
Yeah, or a multi-use path.
Yeah.
Yeah, paving it, AC path, something would be wonderful. But, even just punching it through so that it's not through the woods there might be just a lower dollar amount, since it's not going to be vehicular, but.
Jen?
Well, one thing we gotta be mindful of, though, is that this is what they're proposing is a multi-use path, and we're talking ADA compliant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
gravel probably would not be ADA, or it would not be ADA.
And then it also has to be maintained by the city, so
Mhm.
vehicles are going to have to
Be able to
traverse it.
travel. Yeah, well, okay, so they're saying we should bring it up to ADA, but you could have a park-like path that was a pretty simple trail.
Not with ODOT funds.
That's what I'm saying. Don't do it with ODOT funds, do it with city funds, and focus the ODOT funds onto Pacific Avenue and Madison, because those are the higher dollar ones where you need the ADA crossings and the sidewalks. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if we do this in-house, if we do the 21 punch-through, we could do it to whatever level we need. I don't know.
Here's another question too, because 21 is kind of an unusual request, or maybe it isn't, what does the additional granting opportunities look like for 21 or 15, 16? Are there a lot of granting opportunities for 15, 16, or is it just too run-of-the-mill that it's?
Well, we actually have our grant administrator here, and we could see if she has seen any opportunities, not to put her on the spot. Christina?
I have not seen any available opportunities at this time.
Okay.
We could add it to the list, though. Would that be appropriate?
Yes, and if you're talking about bike paths that are separate from the road, they do have some trail grants.
Ooh.
There is trail grants, but not vehicular paths.
Yeah, so I
Be
see that they're
separate from the
calling
roadway.
for multimodal, but that doesn't mean it has to be. I mean, Neath Street is a gravel street. So you're connecting you know, ADA, if you wanted to bring it up to a level where it was all ADA and then you connect it to a gravel street that's existing, it's not exactly I don't know.
You know who's cooking dinner tonight.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I was going to ask, for those people that have been involved in the management part and coming up with some of these suggestions, and I know you guys went out there and did some walkarounds and some audits and stuff. Do we have any kind of feel for the usage of any of these? You know, like, are there lots of kids on the streets where suggestion 22 is, or lots of kids on the streets where question 15, 16 is, or any idea about the population of kids that would use 21? Any kind of background information at all about anything that was noticed as far as usage is concerned? I mean, the bus lane thing for me, the few times I've been out there, it's crazy city, you know?
Yeah.
And so I get that. For me, that's a no-brainer. But I just wondered about these other projects.
Shelley?
So,
Yeah, you know, and forgive me because I've never been a part of this conversation before. And so please don't take offense or misunderstand. I'm looking at what would impact the most students and families. And creating that bus lane between Madison and Elementary and Sunset would have the most impact. I'm struggling with the other suggestions because it doesn't impact as many families. And so
Well,
maybe
Shelley,
I'm misunderstanding where you're going with this. and
Shelley, we
I
have to
apologize.
pick two.
Okay.
I think we're all
So
in
we're all in
agreement.
agreement that number one is our number one. But we have to pick a number two, and that's,
Okay. I
Yeah.
misunderstood what was happening. Thank you.
oh, yeah, of course, but we would love your input on what you think would impact more students. Improving the sidewalk conditions on Madison and Pacific at that intersection there, or doing maybe a multimodal path on line 21, or any of the other suggestions.
With the understanding that maybe everything from Michigan Avenue north, like towards Salmon, would potentially fall within the Urban Renewal Agency's purview to maybe be requested for those funding elements.
I apologize. Would you mind repeating the question?
Oh, I just was clarifying that we would love Shelley's input, and I believe Eli's on there too, as to, you know, we're focusing on all of these infrastructure things and just noting that Michigan Avenue North is within the Urban Renewal Agency zone, so maybe setting those ones aside and really pushing hard on the URA to do something, although URA funds are quite tight. So, there's
But
some
the
doable
Michigan
things.
Avenue, that piece there is part of a more comprehensive, expansive plan that's going on. So maybe focusing on the other elements.
so
Eric?
somebody asked a question a few minutes ago about, now I've forgotten, it had to do with how many students are impacted. And as I remember, and then the question was about the audit work that we did on site and how much activity did we see at certain locations. And what I remember is that what really stuck out to me was when Shelley and whoever the other faculty, teacher staff was there at the time, talked about how there's a lot of families that live in those apartments there at Shoneman, and they are taking the bus to school, which is 3 blocks. So, yeah, there's,
It's a whole thing.
That's
Yes.
correct.
I understand, I'm sure there's a lot of history to it and whatever, but I guess my point is that we should consider that in terms of, and I'm sure Shelley probably has the best perspective on it because she knows the students, and that is, I don't want to say, well, I kind of want to say, use the term low-hanging fruit, but if there's students and families in the immediate vicinity of the school that are taking the bus to get there, it seems like there should be some ways to facilitate transportation for them, foot or a bicycle, that would relieve some of that busing need.
Absolutely. I completely agree. We have a lot of families that come from the Shoneman apartments, and to create a safer route for them so that they wouldn't have to take the bus would be a second priority in my mind.
And if I could add to that, excuse me, one of the things that I think on these risk recommendation lists that we should not ignore, and it may not rise to the level of these top 2 priorities because it's a small project that I think some funding could come to from some other means, is a safe and dry bicycle storage facility for kids who are riding to school. Because, and we have the same problem at Marshfield here, the kids don't want to ride their bikes to school because if they leave them outside on a bike rack, somebody's going to come along and mess with them or steal them or whatever. So they need a safe and out-of-the-weather place to lock their bikes. And that shouldn't be a huge cost to do that. Might not be part of this top 2, but something for us to keep in mind in terms of priorities and sourcing out some other funds.
Well, you know, Eric, you say the driving or getting the bus from the Woodland apartments off of Shoneman. I mean, just looking at the grouping, number 22 as an item is a lot. That's a pretty significant dent in that. And I'm not sure how many
14.
kids live down in the 15, 16, you know, repaving of sidewalks or installation of sidewalks for Pacific Avenue and Madison, but there's definitely a lot of houses down there.
Yeah, I'd like to look at 22 and then the resulting 14, that intersection there, because that gets them across the street so they can walk from Shoneman and down Maryland and then cross the street there. I think that would be a nice comprehensive project.
Well, yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is we want number 1, but now we're thinking maybe number 22 is a good thing to do because it impacts such a large part of the neighborhood, would allow kids to walk. And I'm sitting there thinking I kind of agree with that. Plus, that's a lot of, if you look at 22, that's a Michigan and it's Maryland and it's Shoneman, that's a lot of sidewalks. That would get to be an expensive project. In 14, the recommendation for 14 is just a missing crosswalk. So that's kind of like painting the road. That's something the city could probably do and actually make that then a really safe route for kids to get to school. So I'm kind of liking 22.
Just for
Greg?
clarification, item 22 is just sidewalks along Shoneman. That's just a north-south of Shoneman. It doesn't
Go on Maryland.
touch Maryland, doesn't touch Flanagan, it doesn't touch Noble, or any of the other streets in between Madison and Shoneman.
Well,
Right, so it's incomplete, it doesn't get you all the way to the school, is
It's
that?
not incomplete, that's just, this
Well,
is just that recommendation. I think
Noble and Flanagan have sidewalks.
to go back up, if you wanted sidewalks on those cross streets to get from Madison to Shoneman, or from the apartments to Madison, you'd want to look at those east-west.
Yeah, but I think they say that, doesn't it, Greg? I'm looking at 22, and the very first one says, Shoneman Street to Morrison along Michigan Avenue. And that's that sidewalk on Michigan Avenue. It says Shoneman Street to Morrison Street along Maryland Avenue. That's that one. That's the Maryland stuff. So they have the long stretch of Shoneman, but they also have there's 4 little bullets down there. And the way I read that, they have included Michigan Avenue and Maryland Avenue as well.
You're
Under
correct,
number
I didn't have
22.
my reading glasses on.
I think we should ask Safe Routes to School to Alta to group things larger like this on a more regular basis. This is
Okay,
nice.
so I'm hearing 1 and 22, and then I say we just throw in 14 as well with 22.
Yeah.
Or
and
1.
Because if they look at the student count, maybe it's
Sure.
an upgraded in
Yeah.
crossing there instead
Doesn't
of
hurt
just a
to ask,
crosswalk.
right?
Exactly.
Ask, yeah, let's
Okay.
ask, throw it in there.
So is that consensus? I'm seeing shaking heads.
Eric?
Yeah, only a thing I would like to see added I'm not reading the description, all I have is a map, but 22 is just sidewalks. What about cycling? Is there going to be bike lanes as part of that, or is it just going to be sidewalks?
So I can ask them to look at that, but typically, local and neighborhood streets aren't wide enough to add dedicated bike lanes. Typically, in local streets, you're just expected just to use the street.
Okay, on the street?
I mean, you know this better than I do, so please speak up, but,
Well, I don't know how wide those streets are. Some of them are really wide, but and that's fine. If they're not wide enough, then that's fine, but then there should be at least mention of signage or share the road so that there's,
I can put in that request.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
the other element too is we need to get them from the apartment complex across Shoneman. And there's really not a great way to do that.
Like
So you're talking
crosswalks?
crosswalks,
Yeah, like where Maryland
dedicated
dives in.
crosswalks.
Yeah,
I will.
Oh, yeah.
because see, there's no crosswalk or anything there.
No.
They just run. I mean, I've done it. You just run across the street real quick.
I feel like these are good things to ask of the city. I'm hammering heavily on this multimodal thing on every meeting, so, yeah.
Goal setting.
Huh?
I said goal setting.
Yeah,
Yes.
oh yeah, goal setting is
Saturday.
Saturday, so, like, push anything my way that you really want, not that I might have already be on the same page, so.
All right. So I'm hearing general consensus for the Sunset area. Definitely number one's number one. And then looking at 2214 with the addition of conversation about direct bike path, and then also crossing Shoneman to get there. So there's kind of a straight shot to the school complex. All right,
Low-hanging
perfect.
fruit. I think it's
Awesome.
good.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the Marshfield School recommendations. Here's your other one. Yeah. I was using them. I thought, oh, how nice, somebody printed these for me. They weren't for me. All right, we'll just dive in and ask, does the group have any strong feelings towards one item or the other like we did on the last project? I'm looking at you, Kurt.
I'm not gonna come right out and say I like this one better or this one worse right now, but, I know there's some congestion out at Sunset where we've talked about, and I think we've addressed some of that around the school with that bike loop and stuff. But to be honest with you, the stuff around Marshfield, if you're ever down there when people are coming or going to school or going to lunch, and parents are parking all along the side of the street to pick up stuff, and kids are coming out of the parking lot on top of the hill and driving down, and buses are trying to come out of the junior high school. It is just a mess. And so when I looked at this, I'm saying, what's the best thing that we can do to ease that congestion and make it safe for kids to walk or young people to walk or ride their bikes there? What's the biggest benefit to help ease some of that? So, I mean, I'm not going to say which one I think is the best or the worst, but that's generally how I'm approaching that. We have the blinking light crosswalk that goes onto Golden, which is okay, but a lot of kids walk down to McKay's, and a lot of kids walk to McDonald's in the other direction. And like I said, the traffic there, trying to get across that road is at times is difficult. So, and that's probably the reason why there's so many numbers right
Yeah.
next to Marshfield High School. So,
I think-
anyways.
I think for me, which is like a overarching crazy project, but it's basically all the recommendations for South 7th and 15, number 15.
And I noticed that the Marshfield representative from the project management team came online, so Eli?
Hi, sorry, I don't have great internet right now because we have no power at the high school, so I'll do my best. Our biggest issue right now is 7th, traffic coming out of Pirate in the Pirate parking lot in the junior high. We just have a lot of issues. It's just with the stop sign that's right there. We try to force kids to go to the right. They don't always follow that. Then the buses are trying to come out of the junior high. Dismissal is absolutely just chaos. So that is our biggest challenge is that general area. It's really not safe for kids.
Yeah, and even during sporting events on the weekend, when we've got track and baseball at the same time, and we've got parents coming and going, it's dangerous out there.
Mhm.
Eli,
I don't have an idea for solution, but I just know it's a struggle.
Eli, I don't know if this is an option, but is there a way to stagger release?
Unfortunately, no. Our bell schedules are pretty well linked together because at the high school, we have 13 teachers that teach junior high courses. So we're married. We're basically a 7-12 campus.
Right.
And do you still limit vehicles on campus to seniors and staff only?
No, it's seniors and juniors. Is mostly, so in order to get a parking spot, you have to have a valid driver's license at the start of the year, so very few sophomores have the opportunity to park on campus. Most of our sophomores take up some of the spots or juniors take down the spots that are in the junior high, or they take the street on 11th.
Okay. So the most junior drivers are coming out into the most complicated areas.
Yep.
Yep.
Just need a sign that says, if you don't belong here, stay away between these hours.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our kids do not park in the junior high parking lot because it is so chaotic. So most of our new drivers are parking back on 11th behind the school over by Waterfall.
Okay. And is the surrounding area still permit parking?
Yes, so all of Ingersoll and 7th, basically from the junior high all the way to Ingersoll is all permit parking only.
Okay. And I know that used to extend more in more blocks in more directions, and it's just closer to the high school now?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know which one of those options along 7th.
All of them.
Just all of them? Well, closing off sidewalk, or closing off the stairway, hardening center line, 500 linear feet of sidewalk on the steep hill. Not all of those make sense.
No.
I mean, there's options within the options.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, I think the sidewalk went along the steep hill where the stairs come down, that's not a doable thing.
That doesn't make sense, yeah.
It's down below the cemetery, and there's just no room there. But kids do come down that one. And I worry about blocking off, our representative from the high school can talk about this, but I worry about blocking off like that stairwell, because if kids are gonna walk, I keep saying kids, young people are gonna walk down that if they can't walk down that step, they're going to walk down the driveway with everybody coming out of the parking lot, which is
And
worse.
it's a really narrow, the driveway coming up to Pirate Parking is very narrow for 2 cars, let alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I don't think blocking off that stairwell would be a good thing, wouldn't be. And some of these things on 7th, for example, 10th is just changing how long the little light flashes to let people get across there. I can't think that's a big money thing that you would go into for a construction grant. Again, I do think some of the same criteria used for Sunset should be the same. We should look for some things that we know are going to cost a bunch of money in order to get done, and some of these smaller things can maybe be done be done another way, so,
Having the city buy in.
yeah.
You know, I mean, one thing that I was looking at that seemed to be a high dollar concept was number 13, the roundabout at Central. No.
Yeah, that's.
I was looking at that and I was wondering what kind of adverse effects that would be, especially with like large trucks.
Yeah.
But
I've already been on several city council and these meetings here where people come in and complain about that intersection.
it's a tough one. So,
Yeah.
I mean, anything that improves that intersection would be nice. I just don't know if that's the answer. I like 15. I think 15 is a good one, like kind of a solid plan, just to dial in things, but
Is there, and maybe this is a question for Shelley, is there data on 15 as far as which routes are most used?
Or Eli.
Shelley,
Eli.
yeah, Eli.
And that, no, yeah.
The
kids-
east-west.
Yeah, they just take the path of least resistance.
Yeah, I see a lot of them walking down Golden, because it goes right to Bimart and it goes right down to the main street. So, you know, because I go to the post office and lots of times at lunchtime, there's a lot of kids.
I would say
a lot
probably
of kids
Golden
walking.
and Hall, because Hall ends up at McDonald's.
Right.
And it has the stairs at the top, so if you can encourage pedestrian traffic to go down the stairs and down Hall, and then separate those a little bit.
so, Eli, your thoughts on the center line hardening option, where you can't turn left?
It makes it, let's clarify, it makes it more difficult.
Yeah, it makes it more, yes, I mean, big trucks, I'm sure could do it, but does that make sense to you, or do you think that would muddy up the waters even more?
No, it would deter, I mean, like, right now, we have a sign that says no left turn, but the kids still, it doesn't matter, they still are gonna, they're always trying to get to turn left whenever they can take an opportunity, because that stop sign is just a little bit farther. But yeah, they just create more chaos, because then you have all the parents that are trying to get into the junior high that want to turn left there too. But yeah, I know hard line would be a good thing to coming out of pirate parking and forcing everybody to go right.
And part of the problem is that they all want to go left because, well, not all of them, but a lot of them want to go left because they're trying to go to McKay's or the Dutch Bros over there. They're trying to get their coffee and their lunch and snacks and whatnot. So maybe you bring that stuff closer to the school. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
I think
wondered with
we're
the sign.
talking about during release time, and you want them to turn right to that intersection at, what is that, Hall?
And then Hall, yeah, to go down 7th and Hall, to go down Hall from 7th.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's not that much of an inconvenience. I mean, if a kid can't go one more block down and then take a left and, in a car, they're still beating kids that are walking on foot.
And then Hall's nice because it has the light when you get down to the end. The intersection of 4th and Hall, though, can be incredibly dangerous because it's a little bit blind there. So you have people hauling ass on 4th, and then you have people coming down Hall, and that's always been a dangerous intersection.
Because the road is a little offset there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not straight, and that is a problem. But I think we're kind of talking about number 12, this not being able to turn left, is that right? That's-
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a problem, because if you're down there between buses coming down from the south, they're coming down, people trying to turn into the lower parking lot by the junior high school, kids are trying to go across the road on Golden, everything just kind of gets backed up there. And anything that can move the traffic from, I think that not turning left and going that way makes a big difference for that crosswalk onto Golden. It makes a big difference for people getting in and out of the junior high school parking lot as well. But, I don't know the difficulty of doing that. And like you said, Ariane, I mean, it probably doesn't make it impossible for people to do it.
Oh, yeah, I go over them all the time.
Hey, well,
They're
great.
they're suggestions. But it is, I think that intersection, that whole street too, also we need to look at the existing parking that is along there. Because what I find difficult, because I go to mostly sporting events, is if someone's parking a giant truck or the buses that don't follow the rules and park where they're supposed to, then you can't see, and then you have pedestrians interacting, and it's really dangerous. I know when we have sporting events there, we have a parent out there who gets screamed at, who tries to get the people to not park so close to the sidewalk. So that's an issue as well on that whole 7th Street.
So I have a question maybe for Eli. Is there any potential to move some of the bus and personal vehicle traffic to 10th Street instead of 7th?
Like, what do you mean, for the bus traffic for the junior high?
Well, on 10th Street, a lot of students park or access the school on 10th Street. Is that not correct?
No,
No?
yeah, not a lot of kids come up. 10th Street is, not a lot of kids come up there. Nobody parks on 10th Street.
Okay,
It's a really steep, that's a steep hill.
right. Yeah, okay.
One more comment on number 12, where we want them to turn right during dismissal, and they're trying to turn left. That sign could be improved. It's small, it's way up on the concrete abutment there. It needs to be in their faces, maybe flashing for the times that they're dismissal. That would be one simple, fairly inexpensive improvement to see if that helps. And then, if need be, put the median strip in to keep them from driving left. But most of the time, it's okay to turn left there when it's not dismissal time, correct?
Yeah, it's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
The dismissal time and lunchtime is really the
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
But like I said, to turn right and then go left down Hall Street isn't the end of the world either. And then,
It is if your friends beat you to Dutch Brothers. So. And looking back at item 9, which I agree, closing off the stairway is an awful idea. And then also doing linear feet of sidewalk around the cemetery, not a great idea either. But I think number 2, which is provided in that recommendation, which is providing a raised crosswalk at the base of the stairs to cross over the street, which would potentially slow down traffic and then provide more visibility for people. Because I think encouraging pedestrian traffic that's leaving the high school to cross at the hall, if they're going down to McDonald's or anything, is a strong encouraging place. We still need to clean up the intersection at Golden for pedestrian, because that's dangerous too. But there is a lot of pedestrian traffic that crosses at that intersection.
I would say raised side, crosswalks in all of our areas would be great because people just love to fly through 7th and Ingersoll. And they completely disregard our crosswalks.
So,
Even though there's a stop sign there on 7th and Hall, California stop that all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe I can make a suggestion. I'm looking at these projects 8 through 12 and understanding you prefer 9.2. Why don't we just bundle them? They were saying that each of the projects are $2 to $3 million. You guys are in that price range. Why don't we just say we want improvements on South 7th from Golden to
Ingersoll?
Ingersoll, thank you. We never follow the rules anyways, right?
Yeah, all of those together,
It's a one
some of them-
project.
Some
It
of them
really
we
is.
won't do all of them, like, we're not gonna do the probably the most expensive one, which is the sidewalk at the toe of the hill for 500 linear feet. So you take that out.
Yeah.
You said you preferred 9.2, right?
Yeah, I
Isn't
like
that-
9.2.
So
So-
just 9.2.
Just
Yes.
9.2.
I'm looking, yeah, so 8, 9.2, 10, 11, and 12. And then
Yes.
that way, it gets you that whole corridor improved. Just picking one doesn't seem like enough.
Yes,
No, I think,
agreed.
yeah, that's that whole section. That's why I was even going bigger and saying
Ah.
all of that and what's in 15. The reasonable ones that we can get done in
Well,
15.
they said pick 2.
Okay.
So once they develop the scopes, if all of these 8 through 12 plus 15 is still less than that $2 to $3 million threshold combined, I say we go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can we
'cause-
ask them to bundle the 7th Street improvements
Yeah,
for us?
because I think 7th Street and then the transition down Hall Street, and then transition to and down Golden, and then 7th as it continues to McKay's. Like any of those improvement areas that we can do, because that seems to be the areas that are used both vehicular, multimodal, and pedestrian.
Yes.
I like that.
Just give it all. I want it all.
Yeah, and you know something, bundling, sounds like an insurance commercial, doesn't it?
Yes.
But bundling all of those things on 7th Street and stuff is a lot cheaper. I mean, compared to the cost of the sidewalks out by Sunset, this is not nearly as expensive as it is doing those. I think that's a project that could be done for not an exorbitant amount of money and could really increase safety along there.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it too. It's a good suggestion, Jennifer.
Hey, look, it's right.
Try to make up for the whole Michigan thing.
Okay. Yeah.
This is what I want to make public on.
Okay.
Okay, so I think you're all right on the right track. And the bundling is the good thing. So there is one more thing in there that becomes a public issue as well as the safe schools when you're doing bundling is right where the bus lanes are. That was never finished. That was part of a project that was supposed to be done, and the city and the schools were going to work together. Never happened. So, you know, when you're doing a curb cut or something and you already got stuff, and the previous operations person was actually going to try and get that to happen. So it might be, you know, it's not the same level, but it also is really different because the kids just fly across that.
Yeah.
And it would really, and a lot of traffic at night because of games and stuff. So if you're doing that bundling thing, you might look at that because those curb cuts might be able to be made without a huge expense.
Agreed.
So can we, where specifically are you talking about?
So it's on Ingersoll, right as you come, because there is no ADA accessible thing
Yeah.
there at all.
I'm
So there's a thing there.
thinking 6 and 7. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's right when,
No, no,
right
no.
where the
Excuse
auditorium
me, Our
is.
number, 6 and 7.
Come,
look-
oh,
come
6th
look
and
once.
7th on your thing. I have one too. I got mine.
Yeah, it's,
It's these right here, because that's where the bus lane is. Is that what you're talking about?
It's on there.
Yeah, 6 and 7.
Yeah, just to, you know, as long as you
It says existing crosswalk over bus lane in Ingersoll Avenue is missing curb ramps. Half of the crossing from the school grounds is currently used loading zone permit, pavement markings and
Yeah.
stuff. So she's talking about not 7th Street.
No, it's not 7th, but it's in
Suggestion
the
6 and
area,
7.
and that's generally the thing is, okay, we're already there, we have construction, maybe think about that. So at least put it on the wish list of that when because you're looking at one bigger area now, so that's something. And that may benefit from the flashing light too, because it's used so much at nighttime.
Yeah. I'm thinking if one project is the bundle on 7th Street, the second project is the recommendations that Cricket's concerned about up by the bus loading thing. Just saying.
as opposed to 15.
As opposed to all of the sidewalk, crosswalk improvements in 15.
I mean, I don't know.
I think staff can look at items 6 and 7.
Okay.
It'd be really nice, because those ones are pretty
Yeah.
rough. As you're coming, like, if you park anywhere on Ingersoll from 7th and
Yeah, I was-
east, and you're walking up to the Marshfield Auditorium, that is real sketchy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of old people who do it for the
Yeah.
auditorium events.
Yeah.
Crick and I
I'm
talked about
speaking
this.
of myself,
Yeah, Crick and I
not
talked
you.
about this.
Liability, liability.
Old people like myself.
Right. Do we have any additional comments from the commission or from our guests today from Safe Routes to School about the projects and the proposed projects that we have discussed today?
I'll just briefly mention again, like I did with Sunset, the same idea of some of the projects are going to be not on the top list, but they might be doable with other funding, like,
Yeah.
again, a safe place for the kids to park their bikes might
Yeah, I think that's
encourage
great.
more riding to school, which means less cars or less bus traffic ultimately, so.
Perfect.
So what's our conclusion around Marshfield? Which ones are we going for? The bundle on 7th?
We're going to the bundle on 7th, and then is everyone comfortable with 15, which is encompassing a large area of safe traffic?
and then seeing if we can
Throw
shoehorn in 6 and 7.
Sneak in 6 and 7, which
You
we
got that
might
one?
be able to get
Yeah.
on there as well.
It's understood. It's all understood.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Do we, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the intro that the staff prepared, and this one said they also needed 2 recommendations from the 3rd revision, which were the non-infrastructure ones.
No, I'm sorry, just the infrastructure ones.
Okay.
The non-infrastructures are just for maybe the Parks Commission and the project management team and the school district to take a look at, because a lot of them had like partners that were kind of citywide, not just the school district in the city of Coos Bay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that goes in.
If I could just add one more comment,
Yeah.
just for the record, I think, this grant application started with including destinations, and maybe appropriately so, we've kind of landed on just Marshfield and Sunset, but I think we should at least acknowledge that destinations has been left off, and maybe that's the right place, the only conclusion to come
No,
to.
Eric,
But
you're absolutely correct. Staff's very disappointed about that. Unfortunately, the consultant really didn't talk to us until it was too late, and we are going to convey that to ODOT. We feel the same way. We think destinations did not get its due attention.
And to be fair, there was confusion as to where destinations was, because it was down at where Blossom Gulch used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when that changed. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but there was nobody really, we had limited input from the school district. So there was nobody to tell us, oh, destinations is up there at Hemlock, up on the top of Milner Crest. It's not down here next. We kind of assumed that it was here in the same vicinity of Marshfield and the junior high, which turned out to be wrong. So to be fair to them, they really didn't get the they're not locals, they didn't get the feedback early in. So I think we kind of missed some participation that would have helped with that, but.
Well, there was an application, there was exhibits with the applications, there was addresses of all the schools.
Was there addresses with the schools?
There was exhibits and,
And was the address
And-
destinations was up on
It was
Hemlock?
the right one, yes.
I would also like to point out that this is the second time we're doing a Safe Routes to School, and there's nothing precluding us from doing another Safe Routes to School grant application where we can look at destinations and any of our other offshoot schools.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's appropriate where we've landed, because Marshfield and junior high, that's the population of students, and that's where most of the effort is needed. So I think that we're landing in the right place.
I agree. And I think 15 helps with Safe Routes to School to link into the existing improvements that were in East Side and towards Lighthouse School. As you're crossing, you're getting closer to getting onto 101. So
Yeah.
number 15 is a big one for me.
And then finally, I love the recommendation of a bike lane on project number 5. It's great, but I mean, it's not going to address it would be really good, but it's not going to address where the crux of all the current problems are. And the same could be said, I think, for 14 and 13. Those may be more appropriate for city to take up independently of Safe Routes to Schools, but those are definitely problematic intersections. 10th and Central, that's a real tough one. And I believe the city's got some plans for improving the right on Central coming up. I mean, at least that was when I was on the commission, that was part of one of the projects that was in planning stage. But
Yeah, that's further to the west right now.
yes, right. But it's connected with all this, so again, I think we're landing in the right place with these projects.
Yeah, you're moving forward.
Would I be able to ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Shelley.
So this is all new to me, and I'm wondering, so now what? What are the next steps?
Jennifer?
That's a really good question, Shelley. So we're going to get back to Alta Planning. They're the consultant for ODOT. We're going to provide them these recommendations for both Sunset and Marshfield. And then what they're going to do is they're going to develop those to develop a scope of work and a cost estimate. And then once we have that, the next stage in all of this is to apply for a construction grant through ODOT. So we'll take these 4 projects, figure out which is the preferred one, and then we'll apply for a construction grant.
So we pick 4 and then we only get to pick 1.
Well, it just really depends on what that cost is. I think, again, we can bundle, it's that $2 to $3 million is what they're saying. So if we can find 2 projects that fall within that cost range, I don't see why we can't go for it. But I don't know the rules overly well either,
Yeah.
so we're gonna have to vet that out.
And that's 2 to 3 million per
Per pro-
zone?
Per project.
Per project.
And I do not know how many,
Yeah,
I think it's per school.
is it
per school.
Yeah, not per
So
project.
we,
Okay. It's per school.
we could have maybe 2 to 3 million for Sunset area and 2 to 3 million per.
I just don't know enough about the program. But I just don't want to give you false information. I definitely, we can vet that out. We are
Yeah.
close to applying for the construction grant once we get through this last
Great.
process.
Well, I hope we're on our way.
And I think it's crucial to point out that we're doing this process so that we can go after these big dollar grants to get stuff done. And then we can continue to go after grants to do more and more projects. So getting to the design development and the cost estimate stage is a crucial piece that we're so thankful that we're getting that paid for through the granting process that we already were awarded, because that's the piece we need to go to the next level. And that's usually a very cost-intensive piece that the city has to bear themselves.
That's correct.
Good on.
Thank you for helping me to understand. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Any other additional questions or comments from guests or commissioners? Kurt, you good? I'm good. Okay. All right.
I'm good, Ariane, I'm good.
Thanks. Any closing comments from staff?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. It's very exciting what's going on, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks at the Parks Commission meeting.